Hello again. This is Carson Alexander with U.S. Tax Relief. Several years ago, I attended a full-day training class for tax professionals conducted by the IRS. One of the speakers that day offered such a clear and understandable description of the collection process that is generally followed by the IRS that it has stayed with me to this day. I have frequently used the metaphor offered by the agent that day with prospective clients and want to share it with you today. Now, while I will refer to the IRS throughout this description, I can tell you that state taxing agencies follow almost the same exact process. So if you're facing state tax as well as federal tax issues, this will be helpful. The metaphor that the agent from the IRS suggested that afternoon was of a river, peacefully flowing through the countryside. He said if you fail to meet a tax obligation, whether it's filing a return or making a payment, you have stepped off the safety of the shore and waded into the river. At first, the waters are quite calm. You can quickly file any overdue documents, make up back payments, and you're right back on the shore and safe. This is true for individual tax issues as well as any business tax issues you may have as a business owner. If you don't correct quickly, you start floating down the river. You might get some notices asking you to pay or file, and will probably be accruing some penalties and interest, but other than those expenses, the river is still pretty calm. If you can file subsequent year returns and pay those current taxes due on time, you may still have a relatively easy time negotiating your past outstanding obligations, especially if you have the ability to pay the balance quickly. If at this point you still haven't made it back to shore, the river will start to get a little rough. There are more rocks and eddies that you're going to have to start navigating. At this point, the IRS will begin to send a notice of intent to levy letter, and they may file a federal notice of tax lien against you and or your business. This creates a public record for you and anyone to see. For a business owner, this can impact relationships with your vendors, your bank lines of credit, even customers, and maintaining your ongoing business with them. It is at this point that many business owners seek professional representation. It would have been safer for the business to have done so further upstream, not to mention less costly. But frequently as business owners, we believe we can handle something, or we rely on the person who prepared our tax returns to make the problem go away. This is almost always a mistake. It is usually about this time, after a lien is threatened or filed, that the letters from the IRS stop and a real person from the IRS takes an active interest in your case. They will set deadlines and make demands you might not be prepared to meet. You have now officially graduated to deep and fast-moving water. If you don't yet have a tax attorney, that is, an experienced river guide, who spends full time navigating the Class 3 rapids that you are now entering, then you need one. Typically, negotiations at this level are beyond the experience and expertise of your local CPA. But even at this point in your journey down the river, an experienced tax resolution professional should be able to get you back to shore in pretty decent shape, especially if you don't procrastinate. Also, be aware that you may have appeal rights that could expire if not responded to promptly and correctly. There are legal remedies you have as a taxpayer, but they are not easy to understand and must be completed correctly and on time, or you will lose them. These could save your business, not to mention your personal life. So having a river guide at this point is critical. There is another benefit for acting quickly. The fee for tax resolution services will still be relatively low. But if you continue to procrastinate, the cost to help you resolve your case can only go up as your situation becomes more complex. Now, let's say you still haven't acted. You still have back tax liabilities, and or you're creating more filing or tax liabilities and have one or more IRS agents contacting you directly. You are now entering the extremely dangerous Class 5 rapids. A skilled and experienced river guide is even more critical now as you enter into this area of the river where people can get hurt quite badly. When you're in the Class 5 rapids, enforcement has started or is about to start. Your business accounts are going to get frozen. For you business owners watching me, it is a known fact that the IRS likes to freeze bank accounts a day or two before payroll is due when they know you will have money in the bank. If you're a wage earner, your paycheck can be garnished. Businesses with accounts receivable are not safe. The IRS can and will levy your receivables. The way they do this is by sending an official notice of levy to your customers, telling them that whatever they owe you must now be sent directly to the IRS to be applied to your tax liability. This is doubly bad news, as you've now lost cash flow, plus your customers are likely to leave you. An experienced tax resolution attorney can still get you out of this mess, but it is more complicated and expensive than had you acted earlier. Unfortunately, the repetitive process of seizing your bank accounts and receivables is frequently enough to put many companies out of business. But should you survive this, you still have to face the 100-foot waterfall. That's when the IRS seizes all of your non-exempt assets. The business that you've worked so hard to build is likely to be lost. Even making your personal expenses is a reasonable challenge, and you may be visiting a bankruptcy attorney for relief. Now, I haven't mentioned different types of taxes, but if you didn't pay your 941 trust account taxes, there's a very good chance the IRS will be coming for you personally. Bringing in a tax resolution professional as you get to the top of the waterfall can still save you, but again, the challenge is far more difficult and more expensive. I think the enduring lesson that I learned that day from the IRS agent describing the river is that you do not want to delay getting proper representation right away. What I mean by that is not even waiting to get the first notice of delinquency. If you have fallen behind on filing or paying for whatever reason, engage an experienced tax attorney immediately. You will save a lot of money in potential penalties and interest, not to mention the anxiety that comes from having the world's most aggressive collection agency after you. No matter where you are on the IRS river, the experienced tax attorneys at U.S. Tax Relief can be your river guide and safely bring you back to shore. Call us today toll-free at 844-IRS-RELIEF. That's 844-477-7354 to get started.